Today we're going to talk about ACT area problems and looking at what the problem is telling us and what we can find just with the little bit of information that it's given us. So our first question comes from our CERT practice questions. This is an ACT question. It says 3 identical circles are inscribed in a rectangle as shown above. If the area of one circle is 64 pi, what is the area of the rectangle? What I want you to do is take just a couple minutes and on your own paper, on your own time, write down 3 things you notice about this problem and 3 things you wonder. Alright, let's talk about some of the things that we noticed. You guys said that these circles are identical, and that's a very important thing to notice from this question. It tells us right very beginning, the 3 identical circles. The area of one circle is 64 pi. That's also information that we're getting from this question, and that's going to be something very important to help us with the answer of it. Then you guys said the area of all 3 circles together would be 192 pi. This is a very good notice. Even more so a very good notice if we look at our answer choices. So if we look down here at our answer choices, E is 64. That's our answer. So that one most likely is thrown in there to confuse you and think, oh, well, it's given me 64 in the question. Maybe 64 is in my answer. It's also very important to notice that all 3 circles put together is 192 pi. Now, we need to know that 192 pi is different than just 192. Okay, so those are 2 different things there. And this, again, is probably just something that is thrown in to confuse you and to make you think, well, I can do all 3 of those circles. With that 192 pi, we should also realize that the area of the rectangle would need to be bigger than 192 pi because we still have extra little spaces in there to fill out. We've got these little triangular spaces in here that are not accounted for in that 192 pi. You said it doesn't give any side lengths of the rectangle, so we don't know the length, we don't know the width. That's something that we'll need to find. The area of a circle is pi r squared, and that's so important that we know that formula. And the area of a rectangle is length times width, or length times height. Some wonders, so some things that we wonder, can we find how wide each circle is? So that would be called the diameter. So if we're talking about how wide the circle is, it's all the way across. You also said, can we find the radius and diameter? So radius would be halfway across this circle. And something very important to remember is that radius goes all the way, so all the way around. So from the center of our circle to any point is always going to be that same distance for our radius. Does it matter if we keep this in terms of pi? That's a really good wonder. If we look at our answer choices, we've got 768, 256, 192. Our information in our problem is in terms of pi, but our answer choices are not in terms of pi. So most likely we're going to have to multiply that or divide or get rid of it some way. So how do we answer the question? Well, we know that the area of a circle is pi r squared, and the area of our rectangle is length times width. We also know that the area of the circle of one circle is 64 pi. So what we can do is we can substitute this 64 pi. We can substitute that in for our area of our circle right here to look like this. 64 pi is equal to pi r squared. Now I see those 2 pi's being multiplied on both sides. What we can do is divide both sides by pi, and those are going to divide to 1. And so we end up with 64 is equal to r squared. We take the square root of both sides, and we end up with 8. So our radius, so from the center to any point on that circle, is going to be 8. So if we take all of these radiuses, if we take the radius to turn it into a diameter all the way across, we've got an 8 and an 8, or we've got 16. So we can take the length of this entire rectangle and we can add all of these pieces together, and we can get 48. So that'll be the length all the way across there. But how do we find the width and the height, or the height of the rectangle? So that's going to be this purple line over here. How do we find that width? Well, we need to remember that the radius of these circles will go from the center to any point on the circle. So this can also go to the top here. It can also go to the bottom. So each piece will be 8 or 16 for the whole length. So we can now say that we know the length, we know the width. We found this here to be 48. So we can take 48 times 16, which is 768, and we can get our answer.